Well, Manso here on Local10.com with a preview of the Heat season. Can you believe it that basketball is back? The Miami Heat starting on Wednesday night in Orlando. A new season, a new roster, really new attitude for this Heat team. Certainly no championship expectations from the outside or realistically in the inside. It's for the first time in 13 seasons, Dwayne Wade will not be on the Heat roster. And as we know, Chris Bosh as well, big storyline, will not be active on the active roster, will not play for the Heat again. So who is here, what will happen, and what can Heat fans look forward to? Let's start with Hassan Whiteside. To me, this is the key to the season because I think Hassan will be a monster. You see it, big man, big stats. I think Hassan, regardless of how well the Heat play as a team, will be a special player this season. I'm saying he's going to average around 18 points, 12 rebounds, 4 blocks per game. I really think he's going to finish in the top 2, if not win the Defensive Player of the Year award. And what I see as Hassan is a rarity in the NBA right now, a big man who can do it all. You have guys like DeMarcus Cousins, who's a special player in Sacramento. You got guys that are more defensively like Rudy Gobert in Utah. But I think what you see in Hassan is the ability to dominate a game defensively, and now the ability to expand his offensive game as the focal point of the Heat inside. More often than not, Hassan will be a dominant player because there will be no one to really cover him. This league has gotten so small that Hassan really, night in and night out, will have an advantage inside. But that's the problem. The advantage inside will normally go to the Heat. The advantage outside, more often than not, will go to the opposing team. This is a perimeter league, a league of shooters. And the question for Miami is, will they have enough shooters to step up? What you're looking at now is the projected starting lineup to begin the season. And I say to begin the season because on the bottom of the screen, you see a couple players that will be a big part of the rotation when they are healthy. Josh Richardson recovering from offseason knee surgery, expected back soon. He's making good progress. Heat fans look at Josh McRoberts and wonder, when is he ever healthy? Is he going to be healthy? But when he is, no matter how long he is, he will be in that rotation. So you look at the projected starting 5. Goran Dragic is your point guard, no doubt about that. Tyler Johnson getting that big offseason contract, the Heat matching that Nets offer, will start as the shooting guard, but also serve as a backup to Dragic at times. Justice Winslow is a guy I'll get to in a minute, but a second-year player now, 20 years old, he is a really big part of this team. Luke Babbitt I have as a starter right now, and I think Heat will start him more often than not because of his three-point shooting ability. And then Hassan, who we touched on already, that will be the center piece of this team, and that will be the starting lineup you will see early on. Again, waiting on McRoberts and Richardson to get healthy. Also guys like Dion Waiters and Derek Williams to see those veterans bring you. Now let's talk about the X factors. How will Miami be good this year? If they're not going to be a team that's one of the lower teams in the lottery team, these are the things that have to happen. Justice Winslow has to make that next step. I know a lot of people, Heat fans in particular, are sour on his offensive game. His shot certainly has been worked on, needs more work. But I see a guy who's really raw, unpolished at the moment offensively, but that can take that next step. And what is the next step for Justice? To me, it's getting in that 12 to 13 point game per game, 6 rebound, a handful of assists, the steals, the defense that you already get. I think if he makes that kind of leap this season, it's big for the Heat. And I truly believe at 20, he's ready to make that. He's mature. He's ready. I saw him in the Bahamas. He looked great. And he's ready to be a leader. Josh Richardson, we talked about him coming back from injury. I put three-pointers there because he's the one guy you can really count on to hit the threes. Last year we saw him. He emerged in the second half. They need him to be a consistent three-point shooter because in this type of league where threes are so important, he's got to be the man that can do it, along with Babbitt, along with Tyler Johnson, and then someone, maybe a Wayne Ellington, that can give you a 3 now and then. The Heat do not hit threes. If Josh doesn't do what he did last year when he is healthy, the Heat are really going to struggle to keep up with the teams in this league. And finally, Dion Waiters, the renaissance man to me, potentially a 6th man for the Heat, at times a starter, but a guy that no matter where you see him in the starting lineup or reserve will get pivotal minutes in key moments. He's a guy that has all the talent in the world. You've seen it in Cleveland. You've seen it in Oklahoma City. Can he put it together now as being kind of an outside guy, playing pretty much for his next NBA contract, and whether that's going to be a big contract? The Heat really feel that he could be the guy that could be special and could be someone that either, again, coming off the bench or in pivotal moments, could be an X factor this season for them. All those things that I just mentioned, the defense as well, have to come together for Miami to sniff the playoffs. If any of those things don't happen, the Heat won't be a playoff team. To me, here's my season prediction. I see the Heat as a 500 team. That's just the way I see them on paper right now. In the best case scenario, Miami could be a 44, 45, 46 win team. If those young guys I mentioned, Justice, Josh, Tyler, Hassan, make that next step. If Goran, now with D. Wade and Chris out, becomes kind of that centerpiece leader that can run the offense, play his fast, rapid style, I think Goran being himself will certainly help this team win games. If all that happens and they don't get that big injury, I think the Heat could be a 45-46 win team. The downside, though, is any kind of setback. Young guys don't develop, have kind of hiccups in their second year like a Josh Richardson. If Dion Waiters or Derek Williams don't work out, if Hassan can't stay healthy or has issues, this is potentially a 34-35 win team, one of the worst teams in the East. I mean, that's just the way it is if things don't go well. I have them somewhere in the middle. You saw them there, 41-41 at an 8th seed. I don't think a lot of people have them early in the season to predict them making the playoffs. It will be tough for this team, but I think this is the kind of team that Erik Spoelstra loves and embraces. Every head coach, including Spo, would love to have the big three. Spo had it for those 4 years. You love to have that centerpiece. You love to have those superstars. It's not the case with this Heat team, but I think this is the kind of team that Erik Spoelstra works best. We saw it early in his career as a head coach. He likes to kind of mix and match rotations, line up, go small ball sometimes, use the advantage you have to Hassan, depending on the particular matchup. I think the Heat can be a playoff team, again, in that 7 to 8 range, on the outside looking in potentially, but as the season begins, right now I have them around a 500 team with the hope that they can be better, and obviously if things don't go their way, they could be worse, but here's the problem. It's going to be tough for Miami without Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. We know that. The good news is basketball is back, and it's always fun to watch. You can read the rest of my preview on Local10.com. Heat basketball beginning in Orlando on Wednesday night.